Oh wait, my bad. Hello and welcome on down to the Crossroads. Today it is Keithen instead of Blake, and I'm going to be showing off my red-green werewolves. This was the first deck that I chose for myself for Magic the Gathering. I kind of just looked through the creature types and stuff and I was like, oh, werewolves. That's pretty cool. But the main focus for this deck is to kind of one-punch the situation. So you pretty much boost up with like enchantments and stuff, and then, well, instances, and then you will kind of just do 12 damage and they can't block it. It's kind of funny when it happens, but they're not smiling. But it doesn't matter, because we are. But let's get into the creatures. So here is the creature lineup for the werewolf deck. We're going to be starting with 3 copies of Young Wolf. Young Wolf is a very easy 1-drop for us. The effect is Undying, so when this creature would die, it comes right back with a +1/+1, making it a 2/2, which is quite nice. That it's all it does, but it's very nice 1-drop, kind of just to, you know, have 2 ways to block with the same creature. It's just nice to have. Plus a 2/2 after it blocks once isn't too bad for a 1-drop in my opinion. Next we have 3 copies of Mare of Evanbrook, and this acts as a lord for the humans of this. Other humans creatures you control get 1/1. And at the beginning of each upkeep, if no spells were cast, I can transform him. The transform effect is other werewolves and wolves creatures you control get 1/1. And at the beginning of your end step, put a 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield. Now, this is kind of good just as a lord for the humans while they're trying to transform. It's kind of just good coverage for a while to keep them up. And it acts as a second lord for this deck that we'll get into later that just kind of boosts up your attack power, so those 1 hits are even stronger than normal. Next we have 4 copies of Dusk Watch Recruiter. Now personally, this is one of my favorite cards in this because it is a good way of search, draw, and yeah, for 3 mana we can look at the top 3 cards of our library and reveal a creature card from among them and put the rest, and put that card into your hand, and then put the rest of the cards at the bottom in any order. The main thing here I like for this is that it lets us just get that wolf we're searching for, or, you know, just get the big wolves ready so we can have them. And the fact that it's a 2-drop makes it very nice just for early game. You can do this a lot early and set yourself up for success later on. And with their transformation effect on the back, creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. This can be nice. I typically prefer the human version of this effect, but don't sleep on the cost 1 less, because that can get your late game guys out really fast and you can start setting up for the 1-punch a lot sooner. Next we are running 4 copies of Shrill Hollower. Now this is the 1-punch man himself. He is the reason why this deck is so functional for me. So what Shrill can do is creatures with power less than Shrill can't block him. This is what your main card is, your main attacker is, because you can boost him to incredible numbers, and then typically they can't do anything about that unless they have a instant or something that can, you know, pacify your creature, but 9 times out of 10 you're not fighting white. For his transformation effect, creatures with power less than Howler can't block still. However, when Howling Chorus deals combat damage to a player, put a 3/2 colorless Eldrazi creature token onto the battlefield. Now, to be honest, you're typically not going to be casting this transformation because his other side is just as good, but the 6 casts for kind of a mediocre benefit isn't exactly necessary, and he doesn't even get more power from this, just kind of more of a shield, being a 3/1 on base, and then on transform a 3/5, which the 5 is nice, but I would never cast it for the 6 mana. Got a lot of editing to do.
I'm leaving this part in.
Next, we have 4 copies of Werewolf. Werewolf acts as the lord for the werewolves and wolves side of things, but is a very good attacker on its own due to its first effect, Intimidate. This creature cannot be blocked by colors that aren't the same as it. So if you're facing a player using white or something, it's pretty much a free attacker at all times, which is quite nice. You can kind of get away with a lot of it. And its last skill being non-human werewolves you control can't transform. And in some cases where the cards aren't better when they transform, it's kind of nice, and it stops you from, if they cast 3, having to switch them back, which is always great. But where the bread and butter really is the transformation effect. It what it does is, wait, fuck, cut that out. Next card we have is 2 copies of Tovlar Dire Overwolf. If I messed that up, we're just not worried about it. I didn't. You're wrong. But its skill is whenever a wolf and werewolf you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Which, if you don't know what Pot of Greed does, it allows you to draw 2 cards from your deck and put it to your hand, which is banned in Yu-Gi-Oh! So this is quite nice. The transformation effects for 12R is actually quite good. It keeps the effect of when wolves and werewolves do combat damage you get to draw. However, it has for 1 red, 1 green, and then X. You can give X amount of +1, +0 counters and give something trample. So this is kind of good if the game's going a little later than you would want to normally, or if you have just spare mana for Shrill Wolf from earlier to just buff them up with the last bit of mana if you think you can end the game that round, which 9 times out of 10 Shrill can do like a solid 15 to 16 damage in 1 swing and have your opponent crying. Or yourself when they, pacify it, but we don't talk about those moments. Next, we have 2 copies of Huntsmen of the Fella. Now, if you have $50, whenever a creature enters the battlefield or transforms into Huntsman of the Fells, put a 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield and gain 2 life. Which, that's not bad on its own. It's quite nice, a little bit of health gain, whatever. But when it transforms, it gets trample, and whenever this creature transforms into a Ravager of the Fells, it deals 2 damage to target opponent and 2 damage to up to 2 creatures that player controls. So it's kind of like a baby lightning bolt to a player and a creature, which is quite nice to just kind of either get an annoying 2-drop or 1-drop off the field if you need to, and just kind of get a little bit of head and whittle your opponent down with burn. So the 1 shot, is likely to hit more successfully. Lastly, we have the Planeswalker, Erlen Cord. Erlen Cord skill for the +1 effect for her. Until end of turn, up to 1 target creature gets +2/+2 and gains Vigilance and Haste. That effect can be really good for, again, Shrill to be plussed up and be able to knock your opponent out. However, it also has the skill for 0, put a 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield and then transform Erlen. When transformed, Erlen turns into Erlen Embrace to the Moon. And its +1 effect now becomes creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample until end of turn. Not as good in my opinion to the Vigilance and Haste, but it's not too bad, and it does kind of help when you swing in with the bigger guys that can't just, ignore being blocked, so you still do some damage. For -1, Erlin can deal 3 combat damage to target creatures or players, and then transform back to its human form, which is quite nice. I mean, that's Lightning Bolt for -1 of her life. And then for -6, you get an emblem with creatures you control have haste, and tap this creature. This creature deals combat damage equal to its power to target creatures or player. So you kind of just turn all your creatures into a lightning bolt, which is, you know, kind of nice if you can think about it. But next, we are going to move over to the spells in this deck. You have a lot of editing to do.
I don't have a lot of editing to do.
Is it always this bad?
No.
Here with the spells, we have the butter to this bread, and how we plus up so Shrill, our main boy, can, you know, hit those 40 damage for 1 turn skills. This is a lot of plussing up, I will admit, but it's all essential to keep the deck consistent and, you know, a powerhouse to be aware of. We start with Gigantic Growth. Now, this instant is very simple. It targets creature, get 3/3 until end of turn. Kind of just one of our ways of plussing up to be able to go in for those big swings, but don't be afraid to use this defensively if we need to guard Shrill, because people will kind of catch on to what you're trying to do and try to knock out Shrill with Lightning Bolt or something, and you can +3/+3 to defend it, so don't be afraid to do that. We have a lot of plussing up into this deck, so sacrificing a little bit won't be too rash. Next we have Titanic Growth at 4 copies. This is just like Gigantic Growth, but 1 more. We get 4/4 for the cost of 2 mana instead of the 3/3. Again, kind of the same case. If we need to use this defensively, do not be afraid to. I personally like to try to keep 1 to 2 lands open on my opponent's turn, so I'll be able to use it defensively and stuff, or offensively, however it works out. Next, we have 3 copies of Moon Mist. Now, if you're not performing those barrel rolls or whatever the Star Wolf man's doing, this is kind of our, you know, it transforms all of our humans and prevents all combat damage that would be dealt this turn from creatures other than wolves and werewolves. So if we are going to deal combat damage, it doesn't stop us, which is nice. But if typically you're using this either to evolve a hard to evolve werewolf, or you're about to get absolutely obliterated. Next we have 3 copies of Hollow Wolf Pack Resurgence. This has the ability Flash, so we can pretty much cast this anytime an instant would be, but it's not an instant because reasons. And it has the ability acting like a lord, giving all of our wolves and werewolves 1/1 and trample, which again, like stated before, is nice to blow over enemies that we couldn't just, you know, not avoid blocking. So it's kind of nice to just have at all times. We have like 3 different lords in this deck, so it kind of just works out. Last up, we have the land for this deck. Now, it's primarily a green deck with just a splash of red, so we only rock 1, 2, 3, 4 red lands. Not a lot, but it's kind of to utilize some of the benefits of red in the werewolf tribal. But then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 base green land. And yes, I have 2 different arts. Fight me. And then we have 1 Firelit Thicket, and it's because somebody couldn't do math. But realistically, it's to kind of filter out the land. So if I have a majority of my greens and I need a red, Firelit Thicket kind of fixes that. If I have 2 greens, I can turn them into 2 reds or a red-green, just kind of consistentize the deck. It helps a lot. Next, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 game trails. And game trails just either red or green, so, you know, kind of nice. And with its effect of reveal a mountain to play it untapped is very nice. And lastly, we have 2 Kessig's Wolf runs. It adds a colorless mana, but the real reason we run this is for the 1 red, 1 green, and then X. And the X is we get to target one of our creatures and it gets X, which is how many lands we played, and gains trample for until the end of the turn. Just kind of another way to plus up our boys and let them go in for the big punch. Thank you all for Wait, what did that say? Thank you all for watching. This is my first deck, so it's not, you know, perfect or anything, but I really enjoy doing this. It's kind of a gimmicky kind of deck where you're going in for just a 1 punch. It won't work if your opponents know what you're doing, but you know, for the few people you surprise and lose friends for, I mean, it's kind of fun. Anyways, you guys have a happy, hollow, little whatever, I guess. Oh wait, one more thing. Alrighty. Instead of like touches, just, you know. Yeah, that works. Have a good one.